Heads up, if you haven't seen Avengers Infinity War, warning, this video is one massive spoiler. Alright, now that that's out of the way, during the post-credit scene of Avengers Infinity War, Nick Fury sends out a distress call to a highly anticipated character, Captain Marvel, who will be being played by Brie Larson in the hero's upcoming solo feature, along with making an appearance in the upcoming Untitled Avengers 4 film. Considering the bleak ending the film left us with, there's a lot of hope being invested in Captain Marvel's debut. Thanos snapping his fingers and wiping out half of the universe's living beings, along with many of our other favorite heroes, means that only a portion of the forces who faced off against him in Infinity War are still left undusted to try to form some sort of rebellion against him. But according to the filmmakers, Captain Marvel will be the strongest superhero to debut in the MCU yet, potentially giving our heroes some sort of advantage, or at least much needed aid in the upcoming film. But how exactly will Captain Marvel fit into the Infinity War storyline? And what if Captain Marvel isn't the saving grace that we're all hoping she will be? What if she's a villain? Well, that's what we're going to try to figure out with this video, starting with taking a look at that post-credit scene. Upon realizing what's happening, Nick Fury and Maria Hill get out of their car, and Fury reaches into the back seat for an item in a bag, something that looks a whole hell of a lot like a space beeper. He presses a button, but then he's dusted, leaving the beeper to fall into the ground. The scene ends as the Captain Marvel symbol makes its way onto the beeper screen. Now this raises a few questions, keeping in mind that Captain Marvel's solo film would be set in the 90s and will feature Nick Fury. Between 20 to 25 years have gone by since the two have met. Why is Nick Fury only calling her now for assistance, since this is the only time that we've ever seen him call her in the past 10 years? Why not summon her during the Battle of New York? Even though he and Hill were aware that something was seriously up during their car ride prior to being dusted, how would Fury be aware of the scale of what just happened? Pretty safe to assume at least it would be the same scale of what happened in New York. He knows people are being dusted, but what makes him assume that this is dire enough of a situation to call upon Carol Danvers? And perhaps the most important question, why would he not have been inclined to call her before now? Needless to say, there's a whole lot that we don't know about how Captain Marvel's origin will play out. The film screenwriters have stated that it'll be a bit of a different take on the character, but based on the facts that we already know. Mar-Vell, the original Captain Marvel, will exist, played by Jude Law, and Carol's history of working on a military base will also stay intact. There's questions whether or not the Skull-Kree War will come into play, with Mar-Vell being Kree and Danvers being half Kree, half human. In the comics, Danvers' origin story goes like this. When the character first popped up in the 60s, she was a supporting character who was part of the US Air Force, and was the security chief of a restricted military base. Here she meets Mar-Vell, or rather his human alias, Dr. Walter Lawson. In the first issue of his solo title comic, a Kree device explodes. Carol gets too close to Mar-Vell when this happens, and then later in the 70s we find out that her proximity to him during that accident caused their DNA to meld, making her half Kree, half human. This is when she took up the Miss Marvel mantle. It wasn't until 2012, after a string of commercially unsuccessful Captain Marvels, that Carol would pick up the mantle, long after the first Mar-Vell had died from cancer in the 1980s. Overall, Carol Danvers' history has been nothing but a heroic one. Logically speaking, the only threat that she may pose to Earth, and the reason why Fury perhaps has kept her at a distance, is that someone of her abilities was too dangerous to have on the planet, or so we can assume. Or perhaps the implications of her existence, considering Mar-Vell was branded a traitor by the Kree Empire, could put Earth in danger just by her being there. Otherwise, she's not really a baddie. So how could she possibly be a villain then? Well, indirectly. There's a theory floating around about Thanos' hero's journey. Numerous times the screenwriters behind Infinity War, Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, have stated that the film is a hero's journey for Thanos. I quote, "By the end of the hero's journey, our main character, our protagonist, at least in this case, gets what he wants." Now running with this theory suggests that Thanos' act of balancing out the universe, something that, based off his conversation with Gamora in the film, he genuinely believes is the right thing to do, is something that is supposed to be heroic, and save the universe as a whole. In the comics, specifically the 1991 Infinity Gauntlet miniseries that the film is mainly based off of, Thanos is motivated by the entity Death, whom he is in love with, and wants to prove himself worthy by fulfilling her wish of wiping out half of life in order to balance the universe. That motivation doesn't exist in the MCU, or at least as far as we know. Death, the entity, isn't present at all, so one can assume that Thanos is either in on some sort of knowledge that the rest of us don't know. Either that, or he's a total psychopath, which is also pretty likely, but for the sake of this video, let's explore that first option. So Thanos is pulling the villain with a point trope. Wiping out half of the universe in order to create balance is for the greater good, meaning Carol and the Guardians and the Avengers and the Wakandans are all fighting on the wrong side, simply because they don't have the context as to why it's the wrong thing to do. Except Doctor Strange, who gave up the time gem in order to keep Tony Stark alive. But that's a whole other Pandora's box of theories. Aside from Marvel just straight up bastardizing Carol's character, which we're like 99.9% sure that they won't, this seems like the only way that Captain Marvel would ever be considered to be a villain. It's not in the character's nature, at least in the comics, to do anything nefarious or sinister directly. She's had to make many a difficult choice before in the past, especially during Civil War II, but to intentionally and unjustly cause pain to others isn't something that's really in her wheelhouse. Although the possibility that she poses a threat to Earth, not out of choice, is an interesting one. Another theory is that Carol, having been out there somewhere in the galaxy for at least 10 years, is already aware of Thanos' plan, and that this is something that needs to be done, which would give greater context to the characters and inevitable encounter in Avengers 4. Scenes between Josh Brolin's Thanos and Brie Larson's Danvers has already been filmed, but that seems pretty unlikely considering it's also strongly against Carol's character. Lastly, another theory pertaining to Captain Marvel potentially filling in more villainous shoes in the film ties in with Adam Warlock's character in the 1991 Infinity Gauntlet comic, and the miniseries that followed it. After Warlock manages to secure the Infinity Gauntlet away from Nebula, who takes it from Thanos in the series, he's then ordered by the Living Tribunal that the gems need to be dispersed since he, and no one, should be allowed to use the gems in unison. Warlock is deemed too unstable to retain that power, and he does go on a little bit of a power trip during that tribunal. There have been a lot of theories kicking around that Captain Marvel will be subbing in for Adam Warlock in the Infinity War story. While Warlock is due to show up in the MCU, potentially being introduced in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the character has a pretty massive role in the Infinity Gauntlet storyline in the comics, and many think Captain Marvel will be the one filling in those blanks, and may end up with the gauntlet, which ultimately corrupts her, making her unstable to wield it, just like Adam was considered to be. So, hero at the start, villain at the end. Oh, the theories. While we still think it's pretty unlikely that Captain Marvel will turn out to be a big bad, who knows how things will pan out in the MCU, with Marvel promising that there are massive changes on the horizon. So, what do you guys think? Do you think Captain Marvel will be this all-encompassing savior that the MCU needs right now? Do you think she'll have a Watchmen moment with Thanos at the end of Avengers 4? Or do you think she'll get her hands on the gauntlet and turn out to be even worse than he is? Let us know all of your thoughts and theories in those comments below. Now, if you dug this video, please show some love by hitting those like and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. And don't forget to take a look at the playlist that's currently flashing on your screen for more nerdy goodness. In the meantime, guys, thanks for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.